All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another market breakdown. This is the first one of the year. Today is Sunday, January 4, and let's hop right into it. So, I guess first thing on our screen is the new update on the TCT, just a bunch of stuff that Freddie has been working on. Um, let's get into the right set and let's go over the stuff that happened last week. Obviously, we had our anticipations, our predictions. First one being Euro CHF, which we had two time frames in sync, the daily and the 4 hour. Weekly was bullish, but we had a reaction from the EMA a few weeks prior, pullback into the EMA into the area of interest, and the rejection as expected. There was a bit of a struggle for price. Obviously, everything was really, really choppy last week, but now I do believe since we have the reaction this week, all we're going to see is a weekly wick. So we're going to get a wick pullback or a daily pullback, basically just something like this, maybe a candle closure like this, and then just a continuation to the downside since price has already shown us what it wants to do. So basically just a pullback to sell. Even on the 4 hour time frame, if we do get a pullback into some of these previous structures, that would be nice to see something like this, where we have one, two, three structure points, a few wicks, pull back into the EMA. So that one's going to stay on our list regardless of what happens. NZD CAD, same thing here. On a weekly time frame, we had the rejection, we had the sell, we had the pullback, and then we basically saw the reaction from the EMA. Price opened, we already sold previously for 2 days in the previous week, and then we just saw the continuation here. As of right now, I don't see that there is anything that we can do to trade this unless we get a deeper pullback. And even then, we're a little bit far from our area of interest. Weekly bearish engulfing, we'll probably just see a continuation here. Not interested in this one. AUD NZD, we saw the buy as we wanted to see. Price was above our area of interest, above the EMA. Literally got the pullback. This is when we were having our call on Sunday. Price pulled back perfectly, retested, and took off. As of right now, this is untradeable. Moving on to the next. USD JPY, daily time frame bullish, pullback into the area of interest. Right now, this is very, very choppy, a little bit difficult to trade. Not really interested, but we did see some buying happening. So on the weekly time frame, what do we have? Weekly time frame is bullish, pullback, retest previous structure, rejection candle. I could see this being another bullish week on USD JPY. So as of right now, I guess we just wait for potentially a pullback into this previous structure right here on the daily time frame, or this 4 hour structure right here, which has already been retested, but it was retested last week. So just a pullback into this area to sell, not in or into buy, excuse me, not interested right now. Next up is CAD CHF. Didn't give us anything last week. In fact, this week it seems to be setting up with a potential sell. I would like to see, excuse me, I would like to see price trading above the daily EMA for buys or below for sell. So in order to take sells, we'll have to see price shift back below the daily EMA. As of right now, not interested. GBP CAD, not interested. Just too much going on right now. USD CHF, this one is perfect. This is exactly what we want to see. As you can see, price has struggled to break through this area of interest. What has it done? It's finally broken through and it's finally pulled back, and not a pullback like this. This isn't what we want to see. This is what we want to see. We want to see a very, very slow, painful pullback into your area of interest. You want to see a reaction You want to see a pattern. So there is a reaction, there's a pattern. There's two ways to trade this. You can one, trade it as soon as price shifts underneath the 30-minute EMA. So say we just shift underneath, I mean, even now, like this is not really that bad. You've shifted below, you've retested it. All you're looking for is a break and retest underneath the area or underneath the EMA on the 30-minute EMA or on the 30-minute time frame, excuse me, or we're looking for a break and retest underneath this 4-hour EMA and 4-hour not head and shoulders, double bottom, double top, excuse me. Wow. I'm out of practice. It's been a while. So just looking for a break and retest underneath this area, almost an area of interest as well. If you were to take this, that, there's 1, 2, 3 structure points. This is a 4-hour area of interest. A break and retest underneath would be good to see. Next is NZD USD. Weekly time frame had a weekly rejection. Daily time frame created a daily double top. 4-hour time frame is pulling back into the 4-hour EMA. This one as well, I am looking to sell. It's not perfect in the sense that we don't really have break and retest underneath the daily EMA, but if given the proper conditions, you could take this trade on the lower time frames, such as on the 1-hour time frame, you have your head and shoulders right here, head, shoulder, break, retest, sell. Pretty simple, pretty standard price action on this one. So realistically, just looking for a sell from here. Could be just a 4-hour break and retest, I would say. What this even be, 4-hour break and retest. I guess there's two things that could happen. It depends on how patient you want to be. You could wait for a daily pullback or a daily break and retest underneath. Personally, I'm not too fond of waiting that long. So I would pick a time frame that price is above. Not really many here. Huh. Sunday. Okay, so I would wait for price to give us a 4-hour bearish engulfing, basically out of this area, and then a lower time frame pullback, and then a continuation. So basically a 4-hour break and retest of the area of interest. So 4-hour under area of interest. For these other ones, it was a 4-hour pullback. No, we already have that written down. 4-hour pullback to sell. And USD, a 4-hour break. Four-hour break and retest under the EMA. All right, so this is going to be the foundation of the trades that we're looking at from last week. Let's go ahead and get into some of these other pairs here. Bitcoin seems to be making a recovery. However, we're still stuck underneath the daily EMA. We are above the 4-hour EMA, but that could change very, very easily. I think we're having a weekly pullback potentially into the weekly EMA before we continue to sell. Not much happening there. SPX, NASDAQ, and US 30 all had a red week. We're struggling, we're consolidating, we're moving sideways, probably due to the holidays. But there's also going to be a lot happening in there's a lot of news that happened over the weekend. So there could be a lot of movement across the board on gold, silver, oil. Oil is going to be huge, and Nasdaq and US 30 and things like that. So I would keep an eye on things before trading them. Um, if we're simply looking at market structure, we have a bit of mixed confluences here. We're underneath the EMA, 4-hour time frame is bearish. Here we're underneath the EMA, 4-hour time frame is bearish, and here we're above the EMA, and the 4-hour time frame is bullish. Daily time frame, to be honest, I think we're just going to sell if things look right. I would say look for buys above this double top. Like if we get a break and retest above, then we'd look for buys. Break and retest above this area for buys. And then anything below, I would be looking for a pullback to sell. Yeah, so we have a strong area of resistance up here. Right now we're below the resistance, so we're probably going to sell. And then once we break above retest, then we were looking for buys. That's about it. For that, gold and silver have had both the biggest buying days and the biggest selling days in their history. It's absolutely incredible. Silver has never moved like this before. Well, maybe in 2020 during COVID, but that's because it was, yeah, wow. Just in the last couple of months, silver since June, August, July, August. Since August, it has doubled in price. Since August, it has doubled in price. Here we have a weekly bearish engulfing daily time frame. Looks like it's setting up for more sells. I would look for buys if price managed to break above, create a head and shoulders. So you have your shoulder, head, shoulder, break above, retest, buy. Same thing here, kind of just we have this bearish market structure where price is bullish, bullish, bearish, pull back, lower low, pull back, lower low until it creates a higher high. Then we might start to see buys. Obviously, we're resting on this EMA, which could continue to press price higher. But we need to see that initial shift of momentum. All right, so dollar index. Dollar seems to continue, right now it's having a pullback, but we're under the EMA, so we'll probably continue losing value. The dollar will probably continue getting weaker. That's all I have to say about that. We're at an area of strong support. So we might, if we do break above the EMA and above this structure point, we might go bullish and then we'll start to take buys. But as of right now, not interested in that. We've already gone over a lot of these. So let's go ahead and start to analyze things. Weekly time frame, bullish. Daily time frame is bullish. 4-hour time frame is currently also bullish. Market structure doesn't look good for me, good to me for buys. I would like to take sells, preferably over the buys. So we're still looking for a break and retest underneath this area to sell. Yeah, going to be looking for that break and retest to sell underneath the EMA, underneath the area of interest. Not interested as of right now. That could take potentially an entire week to sell and then to pull back the following week and then, continuation from there. EuroCAD, weekly doji, weekly time frame is bearish. Daily time frame is still bearish. We have created a lower low, I believe. Yeah, so we closed below this structure point, so we have a new lower low. In fact, we'll call that the lower low. If price manages to break above the EMA, we could start to see buys, but I don't love the market structure, so we're just going to stay away. Too choppy. Same thing here, very, very choppy. We're kind of at the bottom, we're at the lower low, we're creating a double bottom. You could potentially take continuation sells, but yeah, we close with the doji at the EMA. I wouldn't be surprised if we saw a reaction to the upside from here on the daily time frame, 4-hour time frame. So just keep an eye out for that. It would basically just be a break and retest above this triple bottom, double bottom, whatever that looks like above the EMA. But yeah, not interested in this. Here, AUD USD currently had a weekly bearish doji, which could signify selling pressure. Daily time frame has had a higher high, so there's nothing there yet. So weekly is bullish, daily is bullish, and 4-hour time frame is currently bearish. So we have a lower low, all that good stuff. Yeah. So this one, I don't know. I want to take sells because NZD USD looks good for sells. But obviously, I think that both of these could use a little bit more price action before we really hop into anything. NZD USD looks much better than AUD USD does. So if you were to take sells on AUD USD, excuse me, I would look for sells underneath the EMA and look to sell into the area of interest here. So that would be a counter trend trade. Not interested at the moment. Moving on. Euro GBP. Euro GBP weekly time frame is bullish. Daily time frame is bearish. So we have a lower low. And 4-hour time frame is also bearish underneath the EMA. Now, this one is a little bit choppy for my liking, but I think that we could get some good selling happening here. So what I would look for is just another pullback into the area of interest or into this head and shoulders right here. So you have your shoulder, head, shoulder. We still haven't really pulled back to retest. I would look for a pullback retest, maybe even a 4-hour engulfing candle to the downside. And then you would just sell probably into this daily structure right here. That is a pretty solid profit target. It is both a daily and a weekly structure. So for this one, we would be looking for a 4-hour pullback to sell. Like that. So this will go into our, yeah, because we have how many time frames? One bullish time frame, two bearish time frames, daily and 4-hour. Okay. Looking for sells. We've already gone over this one. We have gone over this one. Moving on. Moving on. Here we go. Euro AUSD. Euro USD is creating somewhat of a triple top. We are still bullish on the daily time frame, weekly time frame. We are still bullish on the daily time frame. And on the 4-hour time frame, we are now bearish. So something to note. Now, this would also be a counter trend trade if you were to take it. We are underneath the EMA. Yeah. All right. See you later. Anyways. Yeah, so price pushed up and then sold. I don't hate this, but I don't love it. This is a bit of a counter trend trade since we are underneath the EMA. Or We can take it since we're underneath the EMA, but it is a counter trend trade. Not interested as of right now. Going to be a little bit more selective. Oh, this is nice. Okay, so weekly time frame is bullish, but it seems like we're creating a double top here on the weekly time frame on the way to the downside, right? So our weekly time frame is bullish, daily time frame is currently bullish as well. So we have the lower low, higher high, and we're currently stuck in this area. Now, if you'll notice something, on Friday, we closed with this bearish engulfing candle, rejecting the EMA here. In my opinion, this looks pretty good for a continuation to the downside. If you'll notice something, we also took a loss right here due to something similar where price sold into this area of interest, bought back very aggressively, and then continued to sell. So in my opinion, I think we're going to see the exact same thing happen, or we have already seen the exact same thing happen twice. We sold, we bought back, we sold, we bought back, and now we're actually going to see that continuation happening. So here we are bullish on 2 time frames. Yes, it is a little counter trend trade. If you are uncomfortable with it, stay away from it. If you want more confirmation, wait for the break and retest underneath this structure right here, and then just take the trade into the daily structure point, I guess. Or yeah, I guess that's probably your best option. But I do think that we're going to sell quite a bit. Oh, another thing that you guys should probably consider is the amount of news we have this week. So this is going to be all the news that we missed out on at the end of last month and just a bunch of new stuff from the beginning of this month. So a lot happening in the markets. You have NFP on Friday, unemployment rate, employment rate, CPI, all that good stuff. So it's going to be a crazy, crazy week. This is a good one. I like this one. This is going to be a counter trend trade based on time frames, but based on what I'm seeing, your 4-hour time frame. Well, here's another thing. 4-hour time frame. Just looking at this, what is the 4-hour time frame doing? Well, it was doing a lot, right? It was going higher, higher, higher. Then we had our shift to structure right here. So you have your lower low. You can consider this a structure, lower low, lower low. All of a sudden we go bullish, okay? We go bullish, we have our pullback, we have our higher high, and then what happens? We shift bearish underneath the structure point. So we already know that price wants to shift bearish on the 4-hour time frame. We already know that. It's already telling us that it wants to go bearish. It had its pullback, it had its opportunity to push higher, and it failed. It failed because of the daily EMA. So that's kind of what happened here on this loss as well. What happened? Price was bullish or bearish, lower low, shift the structure, we went bullish, and then bam, we shifted right back to bearish, had our pullback, had our continuation to the downside. I mean, if this doesn't look similar to you, like this right here, and what's happening right here, like that right there is almost identical to me. You had your shift to structure, you went bearish. This is your pullback into the EMA or bearish. We pulled back into the EMA, bearish engulfing, pullback candle, bearish engulfing, pullback candle. Even if you were to sell, like right now is obviously a terrible time to get into the market. But if you were to sell, you just set your stop loss right above the wick or right above the area of interest. What is that? That's huge. We'll call it 50 pips, 50 points. You're probably going to be okay to take this at least to a 1 to 2, like right there. In my opinion, I think that's very, very possible. Obviously, counter trend trade, high risk. All you're waiting for is a potential break and retest under 4-hour structure. Okay, this one is going here. All right, What did we say about Euro USD? Yep, it's already going. That means that NZD USD probably going to do the same thing. Yeah, that's crazy. All right. GBP USD selling. Euro USD. Well, Euro USD is a counter trend trade, but within one day it can turn into a non-counter trend trade, right? Weekly time frame is currently bullish, but the daily time frame can very quickly and easily shift bearish. One thing to consider, or one thing to note, is that we're going to run into the EMA, which might force us into a pullback to create the head and shoulders pattern, allow this EMA to trickle upwards, and then from there we'll get the real sells to happen. All speculation, obviously. If we do happen to break underneath here, then all we're doing is pulling back into the EMA and also into this previous structure right here in order to continue to sell. Honestly, it's USD, GBP. I do like this one. I do like this one once the daily time frame shifts bearish. So daily shift of structure plus 4-hour pullback. Okay. Moving on. Gone over this. GBP, NZD, not interested. Seems like we might be getting sells on GBP, NZD because we're in this area of resistance. USD CAD, USD CAD. Weekly time frame had this pullback candle. Daily time frame is currently still bearish. Pullback into previous structure, into area of interest. I could see us selling from here. I could, but I could also see us blowing straight through this area of interest and continuing to the upside. The factor which will tell us what's actually going to happen is going to be this 4-hour EMA. So if we get a break and retest underneath the 4-hour EMA, then we will look for sells. If not, then we're just going to stay away. Let's see. So 4-hour break and retest under EMA. Another thing that tells me that this probably won't happen for sells is because our other USD pairs, NZD USD and Euro USD, we're looking for sells. So we can't be looking for sells on a USD something else pair versus something else USD pair, if that makes sense. They're going to kind of go in opposite directions, especially if the US dollar is the pair that is moving. So here we might just be seeing a recovery on the weekly, daily time frame. And we can't even take, so I guess you could take buys, but they would be very, very counter trend because of the fact that you only have your 4-hour time frame in sync. The other two time frames are currently bearish. So we're going to wait for the daily time frame to shift bullish and then pull back for buys, right, later on in the week, or we're just going to wait for the break in retest of the 4-hour time frame for sells. But if that does happen, chances are we're not going to see the same trades happening on the other pairs. AUD CAD. AUD CAD will probably just see a continuation to the upside. Weekly time frame is bullish. Daily time frame just had a break and retest of the EMA. Very, very clean and obvious bullish engulfing candle. Only issue is we're kind of inside of this area of consolidation. Not sure what to think about that. 4-hour time frame is being same thing, is very, very obvious. We had a push to the upside, consolidation, pullback. Then we broke above the consolidation, we retested, and we had a bullish engulfing. Not a bad opportunity in my eyes. Let's see. Weekly time frame, bullish, daily time frame, 4-hour time frame are all bullish. Yeah. I would look for I guess for this one, you would need shoulder, head, shoulder. A break and retest above this area of interest, maybe like this. So a lower time frame break and retest above lower time frame area of interest. So that would be what we're looking for on AUD CAD. For buys, okay, GBP USD, GBP USD, not interested. Moving on to the JPY pairs, consolidation, pulling back, consolidation, created a double top, broke, retested the neckline, could potentially sell. Same thing across a lot of these. They're all either in the middle of a pullback or they're creating a pullback right now. I don't know about these ones. I don't know. I don't hate them. I don't hate them. All right, let's do some considering. Okay, so first of all, weekly time frame. Weekly time frame looks like it is starting to have a pullback, right? So we have two dojis. Yeah, to me, it looks like the pullback is not over. And we cannot really predict a pullback. It will be counter trend trade. Obviously, our daily time frames are all bullish from my understanding. You're bullish across all the daily time frames on the JPY pairs. You have your higher high. You have your higher high. In fact, this higher high is right here. Okay, so here's going to be what happens. If you see a shift of structure here, so if you see today's candle close or tomorrow's candle close underneath this line right here, underneath this structure point right here, then the daily time frame is bearish, and then you will be able to take your sells. In fact, if that happens, then you will also be underneath the EMA on the 4-hour time frame. You'll have your head and shoulders. You have your shoulder, your head, your shoulder, break underneath, retest EMA to sell. You'll have your two time frames in sync. So all we're looking for a counter trend trade on CAD JPY or other pairs. Let's see. I think CAD JPY is the only one that looks this clean. You have your daily head and shoulders. In fact, let's quickly break it down. So if we get our counter trend trade under, look at that, under the 4-hour EMA, we already had it written down. We will have two time frames in sync. You'll have your daily 4-hour time frames that are bearish, right? You will be at a round psychological level of 114 flat. Okay. You'll have an area of interest. You'll have your technically a daily area of interest, or wait. I guess if you reach far back enough, you'll have an area of interest no matter what. We do have somewhat of an area of interest here. There's one structure point, two structure points. We drag it across. Okay, so we need to expand a little bit. So we're inside of an area of interest right now. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4 structure points in general, right? Now, what we want to see is we want to see price break out of the area of interest. So we have an area of interest on the weekly time frame. What do we have? We have nothing. We just have a candlestick rejection, which is your weekly candlestick bearish engulfing. You're not retesting previous structure. EMA, you don't have a pattern. Daily time frame, you have somewhat of a head and shoulders. You would be retesting previous structure on the daily time frame, and you would also have your candlestick rejection. And on the 4-hour time frame, you would also have your EMA. So we would be breaking and retesting the EMA. You have pattern, you're retesting structure, you have your EMA, you're looking for your rejection for your entry underneath the 4-hour EMA, underneath your 30-minute EMA for entries. and then one other confluence, and you have 100% for your trade setup. This is going to be the perfect setup for a counter trend trade setup. Okay. Now I only say counter trend because right now it's counter trend. In general, off of the higher time frames, it is also counter trend, but based on the confluences that we have, it won't be, because then we'll have two time frames in sync. So out of all the JPY pairs, CAD JPY is my favorite. And then obviously we have our CHF pairs. Let's go through those quickly. Looks like we have on the daily time frame, right? We have a sell. When we have a very, very slow pullback, I would like to see a bearish engulfing candle. To be honest, we might not. We might not get that. We might just get a continuation to the upside. In order to take this confidently, I would look for, so daily is bullish above the EMA. I would prefer for the daily to be bearish, but by the time the daily is bearish, I don't think that we will be able to take this trade. Let's see. Well, not really, I guess. Let's see. I'm thinking something more along the lines of this. So you have your confirmation of price shifting to the downside on the 4-hour time frame, underneath the EMA, underneath all of these wicks. Then you have your pullback into the EMA, into the previous structures for a continuation trade to the downside. In my opinion, this would just line up with the other CHF pairs we're looking at, so it's nothing new. I do think that the CHF is going to sell very, very, very aggressively on some of these this week. It just makes sense because look at this. If price was going to buy, it would have already bought, okay? Just like this. We saw the buys that they were going to happen, and they did. Above the EMA, buy. And then what happened? Momentum shifted to the downside. We were supposed to get buys above the EMA here and break and retest above the EMA to buy. That didn't happen. Instead, we got a whole bunch of nothing, okay? Now, what might happen is we might get a manipulation above all these highs and then a shift underneath the EMA. In order to not get manipulated, we're just looking for, obviously we could get manipulated to the downside and then take off the upside. Anything could happen, right? There's nothing guaranteed in this world. But in order to be safe, then we're looking for a break of the EMA, a retest of this area in general, and then a continuation to the downside. Now, the best way to avoid manipulation is you wait for the confirmation on this retest, right? The confirmation is going to look like a engulfing candle, doji candle, and whatever else looks good at the time. In my opinion, out of the CHF pairs, this is one of the better looking ones. Weekly time frame is bullish, daily time frame is bullish, and 4-hour time frame is also currently bullish. No, 4-hour time frame shifted bearish. So 4-hour is bearish. We've already created somewhat of a double top right here, broke underneath, retested the neckline. I wouldn't be surprised if we sold. But yeah, out of all of the CHF pairs, I think that AUD CHF, GBP CHF look really, really good. And then obviously our other CHF pairs here. To be honest, if I was to remove one of them, I would remove Euro CHF and maybe pick one of these other CHF pairs instead. Or we could just toss them all in there together. That doesn't really matter too much, in my opinion. I think what matters more is going to be the break and retest of the EMA. I don't think we're going to get this pullback on Euro CHF, so we're going to remove it. Break and retest, break and retest, break and retest. So on all three of these CHF pairs, it'll be a 4-hour break and retest. Break and retest under the 4-hour EMA, and 4-hour break and retest, 4-hour break and retest, 4-hour pullback. Let's go ahead and remove some of these old things. Delete. Okay. We have this, and then we have this. So this is going to be our list. Let's go ahead and organize it really quickly. Counter trend trade. So this is going to be break and retest, break and retest, break and retest. Here it's going to be a break and retest. Here it's going to be a pullback to sell. So that goes to the top. Pullback. What is this? Counter trend trade, but it is a lower time frame. Is it for break and retest? I think it could be also lower time frame based, but we'll toss this one on the top. Break and retest. Euro USD was a daily shift to structure. So this one would technically go to the bottom. This one is a daily shift to structure. Is it though? This is not what we had. AUD CAD? Why would I say that? This is just a lower time frame. 4-hour break and retest above structure. Okay. Break and retest. I think that's everything, to be honest. Okay, so this is going to be our list for potentially the next week. I'm not sure if I'm going to be as available this week, and I'm going to on a trip at the end of the week. So I can't promise that we will be doing these calls every day like we used to. But if I do have time, I will obviously let you guys know. But yeah, this is going to be our list for the week. First of all is Euro GBP. For this one, we have 2 time frames in sync. We're just looking for a 4-hour pullback to sell. Looks like the pullback may have already happened, but you never know. Next is GBP AUD with a counter trend trade break and retest for sells. Ideally, if you don't want to get caught in consolidation or in a pullback, you just wait for the break underneath these structures to sell here. For CHF pairs, they're all going to be the same, looking for a shift underneath the EMAs. And then NZD USD, we're looking for a proper confirmation of selling, potentially on, and I say proper confirmation because on the daily time frame, we already have a reaction from the EMA. So we don't want to get caught in this type of stuff where we have the sell, but price just retraces and continues to go higher. There's a good chance we actually pull back into the EMA to sell. So the safest thing for us to do is just wait for the break and retest underneath our area of interest or the structures. Here, price has already kind of done its thing, break and retest above the EMA, above the structure. Maybe not the best break and retest. I would look for maybe a lower, I don't know why this says 4-hour, lower time frame break and retest above lower time frame structures. So all of this stuff. And then CAD JPY is going to be a 4-hour break and retest underneath the EMA, underneath the area of interest. And then last but not least, Euro USD. You could do it 2 ways. We're already underneath the EMA, so you could just sell and hope for the best, right? So like this, just sell, stop loss above the area of interest, and you're targeting potentially the daily structure right here. That's a 1 to 1.5, not the best return. So in order to get a tighter stop loss, you look for the daily time frame to go bearish, right? So once the daily time frame goes bearish, then you'll have your pullback on the 4-hour time frame or on the daily time frame. And then after that, you can tighten your stop loss right after your entry and get a much better return on investment. So that's going to be the breakdown for today, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you guys for watching. And I hope to see you guys in the next one. I hope everyone had a great holiday, and I'm excited to be back. Bye-bye.